Let's see if this worked. Okay. Hi everybody. Good evening. Happy 420. Let's see here. Welcome to the show, everybody. Good evening. Gonna share it around, let people get to the party. Hey everybody. Good to see you all. I can't really see you, but it's nice to be here again. I'm just talking with my normal voice, so if I'm not loud enough, type something. I will try to watch. And feel free to share. What's up, Robin? Feel free to share this with a bunch of people. Basically, everyone you know. Not everyone you know, but a lot of people. Okay, I'm gonna share it on my own thing real quick. What should I put as it? What's a gripping? I don't even know what to put. Okay, what's up everybody? Okay, so hi everybody, my name is Zach Haller. Welcome to Trending Topics. It's Thursday, 420, which is a really wonderful day in my life, in the lives of Washingtonians, here where it's legal, and basically everywhere in the world. Obviously, legal weed is everywhere. Legal weed is obviously more smokable, less issues with that. But happy 420. I hope people have been able to legally enjoy some 420 on this wonderful day. Remember, 420 only happens once a year and twice a day, so you always have to celebrate. So no excuses. If you're doing that at home, cheers. I am not doing it indoors here, but it's been a good day. Let's see here. So there's a lot of stuff going around about weed today, and so we'll start talking about weed because that's awesome and it's a big issue. And tell everybody where, type in the comments where you're from. That's one of my favorite things to see is who's where. And tag your friends that might think I'm handsome. I mean, think I'm interesting, and who should be watching this. And get really personal, like, just be really, like, you know, interesting with the comments that you make on people, because curiosity is what always loops people in. It was a good day on Twitter Trending Topics on Twitter because I was doing well, which, you know, is why I thought it was a good day. But there's obviously the prohibition of weed. It's crazy. You know, when you really break it down, it's just very obvious that the prohibition of weed is a prohibition of alcohol, is like the prohibition of alcohol, but it's basically just an act that's done to allow the pharmaceutical industry to have all of that money and to basically cordon off something that's completely natural that anyone can and should have access to. So it's a pharmaceutical fight, and then the criminal justice movement. A while ago, I wrote a piece for Truth Against the Machine, and I'll circulate that again. But basically, it was admitted by Nixon's administration, if not Nixon himself, I don't remember exactly, that the drug war was created to basically give reason to incarcerate black people and incarcerate the war protesters, the hippies. So the legal weed movement, I think, is one of the most important movements because of all the different areas that it touches. Specifically to work against the influence of Big Pharma and to work against the influence that the racist criminal justice system has on our society. Weed moving forward on weed issues advances both of those causes at the same time, in addition to other things. If you're studying the state economies here in Washington or in Colorado or anywhere where weed has been legal, depending on how long it is, I mean, it's just money is just pouring in. We've got to start watching now the corruption that's coming in with the funds for legal weed. So that's a new thing. Monsanto, there may be a merger with Bayer. We'll see if that gets approved, but big cannabis is going to become a thing. So the dominoes are falling with weed legalization, and the more people that are on the boat and informed on it, the better we can do it, because it is something that states, there's so many different state laws and local laws that apply to weed and how it is policed, and the sentencing laws and the people who are serving time for laws that are going to get changed. There's so many state and local issues that can be moved in to advance weed legalization that I think it's just something that's really important that everybody as progressives is aware of. Hopefully it's not even an issue if you support it or not. Obviously, tobacco is way more dangerous. Alcohol is way more dangerous. No one's ever overdosed on weed. Look, I have tried to overdose on weed many, many, many times, okay? It has not ever happened for me or anyone else in terms of the point of death, right? It's just never happened. It's basically grass. So that some really smart person decided to smoke one day, and I'm so thankful for that person every day. But there's so many reasons across the different platform that progressives have that weed legalization was something that we all want to be pushing for at all times on our local levels. The three main steps being, first, legalization of medical marijuana, second being legalization of recreational marijuana, and then the third step is kind of related, is basically I encourage people to advocate for commutations of prison sentences for nonviolent drug offenders. Obviously, at the end of Obama's term, he commuted the sentence of, I think, about 330 people in one of his last progressive acts as president. One of his only progressive acts as president, I guess, right? But one of the last things that he did that kind of didn't make us upset at the end there. So states and different cities can also commute sentences for nonviolent drug offenses also. So the more people are aware of that and that know that there are these really unfair sentencing practices and policing practices in every state in the country, that's a good thing to be aware of. And let's see here. Oh yeah, going back to Big Pharma for a second, obviously Big Pharma is one of the most predatory industries that exists in the country, between all the lobbying that happens and all the money that goes into preventing Americans from having fair healthcare costs, accessible healthcare costs just for their drugs, not even talking about the actual care, but pharma, big pharma, it's just these systems of monopolies and basically just this price gouging, this absolute price gouging. And for anyone who lives near the border with Canada, it's just bizarre that you can see drugs be priced so differently, so close to each other. So not only is the weed legalization movement really important for the criminal justice reform movement, but it's also really important for the fight against Big Pharma, because Big Pharma is one of the most, like I said, one of the most predatory, huge industries that what's up in Port Townsend? Hey, from Seattle. It's one of just the most predatory industries that affects all of our society, and especially our politicians, because we've got tons and tons and tons of politicians that take tons of money from Big Pharma and related entities. So this 420, if you're not smoking weed, pass me your weed and I'll smoke it. And just learn a little bit about weed, find some good articles. There's actually a CNN documentary, and I cannot believe that I'm actually recommending something on CNN. This is the one time I will ever recommend something on CNN that you actually take at face value and not look at because you want to induce vomiting. But there was a really great documentary called Weed by Dr. Sanjay Gupta a few years ago, and it's wonderful. It's surprisingly good, and really moving, and it really introduces you to the real clear benefits to medical marijuana. So if that's an issue that you're unfamiliar with, or if you kind of still have the sense of the stigma, try to let go of that, and maybe get a weed brownie and eat that if you don't like smoking. But watch that documentary, look for other things, because there's a lot of really sympathizing information about weed, because it's really great and it really changes the lives of a lot of people who have epilepsy or cancer or other symptoms that basically they're either stuck taking horrible long-term pharmaceutical programs, or they could smoke a little bit of weed, or have a exactly, or you know, there's weed oils, there's pills, there's all these different types of ways that people can choose to medicate with marijuana as a treatment alternative, and to deny people the opportunity to have that treatment alternative, I think, is a violation of human rights. That's maybe a little bit of a kind of utopian idea. It's just, I literally am like, this is weed, this is literal grass. Everyone should have access to it. There should be no real limitations. Obviously, we want to be safe with driving and operating heavy machinery and having rules about that. But I think that weed should just be all over the place, and there should be, you know, it's just ridiculous to me how obvious it is that weed is prohibited because of the industries that are succeeding because of its prohibition. So, blah, blah, blah. So that's our 420 introduction. So, and that's actually a good segue, because last Thursday I wasn't here, and thanks for coming back. Last Thursday I wasn't here. As some of you know, I had the wonderful opportunity to ride on the Cannabis, which is this awesome weed lounge. It's like basically like a limo, or like one of those pedal pubs, if you've seen those. And it's just this huge bus that you can smoke weed on, and it drives all over the place. And I'm writing for Northwest Music Scene, which is a awesome independent organization out here that highlights local music in the Pacific Northwest. Hey Glenn, thanks for having me. And they sent me on my first task, which was to interview Cypress Hill, the legendary Latin hip-hop band, and ride the Cannabis with them. So last Thursday I did that, and my article is up, and I'll share that again, and check that out. The guys, Be Real and Sendog, were so chill. They were so nice. I had a really nice time chatting with them. It was a really nice interview. They've done a lot of work advocating for weed politically, in addition to the way that they present their music. And so yeah, obviously support independent music and independent artists, but Cypress Hill was awesome, and I had a great time last Thursday. And if you ever have a chance to get out to Washington State, get on the Cannabis. I feel like I've got this glare. Is the glare annoying you? Should I take the glasses off? I don't have to see. Anyway, I think I'm ready for a drink. I don't know about you, but if you have anything lying around, feel free. I just like champagne. I don't know. It's just always feels like there's something to celebrate. You know, we're alive. We all got that in common. And I'm thirsty. Maybe you're also thirsty. If we're all thirsty, then that's cool. So anyway, happy 422. So let's see here. It's just like every time I look at my list of shit to talk about, I'm just like, oh god, oh god, oh god. It's like, oh, here, put the next nickel in, put the next nickel in. This Unity tour. Okay. So I don't even know where to start, and I feel like I need to like just really like hammer on the one-liners here. Oh, nice. Yeah, like absolutely, like toke. Feel free to put pictures of your bong, whatever, you know, legally. So this Unity tour. So Tom Perez is now going on this Unity tour around the country with Bernie, and we all love Bernie, and Bernie has disappointed all of us to different degrees. And cheers, by the way. This is cheap champagne, but it still tastes fine. It's totally good. I mean, oh, actually, oh, weird. I have an orange right here. I'm just gonna put this orange in. It's so convenient. It's just sitting here. So if you haven't used clementine pieces as garnish for champagne, it's actually, you can squeeze them in there a little bit, and it's like a perfect, instead of doing a mimosa, because no one really likes to water down their champagne, because it's like, I'm drinking the champagne, I don't want to water down the alcohol. So if you just like pinch the clementine, it's like the perfect, tastes like a mimosa flavor, and like is orange, and that's a really nice color, and it's like a baby mimosa. So the Unity tour is hilariously terrible, and Bernie has disappointed all of us in some different ways. I assume not everyone has just blindly followed his Russia comments, which I feel like are still him just trying to stay in good favor with the Democratic Party, because he has a lot of leverage that he needs to keep with them if he wants to be able to pass Medicare, if he wants, you know, all these bills that he's going to still try to push this administration, whether he likes it or not. Oh, you saw Bernie. Oh my god, I saw so many pictures with Bernie. I will literally be falling off of him crying if I ever get to meet him. I have a weird feeling they'll never let me meet him, though, because I just basically have criticized every corporate politician that's like in between me and him now, so we'll see. Cross your fingers that Bruno and I get a photo together at some point. But so this Unity tour and like the rant I'm about to go on right now like might like get me even like denied entry to the Unity tour, because I don't think it's really about Unity, right? It's about glossing over what happened. And Tom Perez, obviously, I know that most of us agree on this, but I absolutely love when Tom Perez gets booed. I love when any of these corporate shills get booed. What's up, Wade? Tell us where you're from. It's, I really, when the whole primary was being robbed from Bernie Sanders, I really, really did believe that only 1% of human beings actually wanted Hillary Clinton to win. Like, literally the 1%. Maybe some that spilled down, but like, I really, honestly, everywhere I went, and there's some awesome conversations on Twitter, and post this in here. So in the comment box here, everybody, tell us in your area where you were from, where you are, if you saw a lot of Bernie bumper stickers and yard signs, or Hillary yard signs and bumper stickers, or Trump, whatever you saw a lot of yard signs of, share your observations from last fall. Because as the primary was going on, I saw basically no Hillary anything anywhere. Bernie was as ubiquitous as Obama was. And it was crazy to me. I was like, there's not even in it. Like, I was like, I know that people, it's very easy to tell that Hillary Clinton's terrible. So I'm glad that a lot of people didn't have Hillary signs out there. And that's a huge, enthusiasm indicator to begin with. But I didn't feel like there were any Hillary signs anywhere. And granted, I was in Washington, but I also had traveled. But even just like people that were like, oh, I'm going to vote, and I don't really know a whole lot yet, but I'm going to get a Hillary one. There was basically nothing anywhere. And I really do feel like the people that voted for Hillary, it really, really, at least in the primary, that supported her very early on, it was a very, 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 very small fraction of Americans. And so the likelihood of people showing up to these events and being disgusted by the corporate politics. I mean, people who show up to political events in an off year, right? It's 2017. It's not even an election year. The people that are going to these political events are going to be people that are really involved. Guess what? That's probably mostly activists, probably mostly progressives trying to change the status quo. And they're going to know that Tom Perez, it doesn't take 5 fucking seconds of research to find out that Tom Perez is a rat. I mean, he hasn't even ever been elected, period, in his hometown. He doesn't even have, like, a constituency where it's like, oh, Bernie's super popular in Vermont, and that speaks to Bernie's relationship with his hometown and his his constituency, the people that he was elected by and that he's serving. Tom Perez never has served any constituents, literally. He has not won any election. The only election is this DNC election, which was just voted on by lobbyists. Tom Perez is a loser, and he hasn't ever had big crowds for him. He's never literally done any of that. And not only is that like a bad sign, but it's, that he can't run an organization that's supposed to be based on learning how to improve the organization of grassroots to win elections, which he's literally never done. Besides it's being completely stupid for all those reasons, it's just another sign that Tom Perez doesn't even necessarily have any fans. Like, the only fans of Tom Perez are people that have been paid by him, or that he has been, paid by. Barack Obama. It's my man Alan Smithy, Actual Flaticus on Twitter, made a really, really great point as a clap back to David Axelrod on the Twitters the other day. And he said to David Axelrod, he said, David, the only people you speak to are getting paid to talk about politics. Literally all of the corporate, the vast majority of the corporate Dems, especially everyone in the Clinton cloud, they all, literally, all they do for a living is get paid to schmooze about politics, and they're getting paid a shit ton of money. They're rich, so they're only ever associating with other really well-to-do people. It totally limits their complete worldview. So Tom Perez is going to get booed basically everywhere he goes. There's already been some booing of him, which is fantastic. I highly encourage that. We'll see what happens on this Unity tour in terms of who supports Bernie inside, who supports Bernie outside. I saw that hammered on the DNC page. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. It's like there's literally no one owes anything to Tom Perez, literally. He doesn't have constituents that support him and just want to stick up for him, period. So it's like, who else would support Tom Perez? Debbie? Like, literally, it's just the Russian troll bots. Like, Russian. Right, like, it's the Correct the Record people are the only people that are going to be actually saying they support Tom Perez, because literally, what good does it do anyone to say they support Tom Perez? It doesn't do any good. It makes absolutely no sense that he was the one that was put in. pushed in to replace Keith Ellison. And I'm glad Keith Ellison, as much as he blocked me and I don't really care for his corporatism, Keith Ellison has been calling out more people lately. And, you know, as much as he doesn't have necessarily the credibility to call people out, I'm glad that those things are coming out. He criticized Obama. Obviously, it's just going to be a while before Democrats can criticize people who were involved in the failure that was 2016. So this unity tour is going to be interesting, and I don't think they're coming to Seattle, so we'll see what happens here, because I certainly would not be the only one in my position of confusion where I want to go see Bernie and try and be with him and thank him and participate in what he's doing, or if we need to really just hardline and say, corporate Dems, this is literally the problem, is the corporate piece of this, so we're not supporting it, we're protesting it. And it would really put Bernie in an interesting situation. I'm sure he's going to try and be diplomatic about it, to have to decide, well, is he going to be on the picket line with the protesters protesting the DNC for what they did, or is he going to be still in the DNC's glass cage? We'll see. I highly encourage everyone to not really, honestly, hedge any bets. Don't give the corporate Dems any slack right now. People are like, oh, I'm so excited for Elizabeth Warren. Oh, I'm so excited for, you know, any corporate Dems. Don't give them any leeway right now. It's so early. We need to be very, very hard on them to say, look, unless you are showing radical change in your governing and your fundraising and your ethics to show that you're actually doing things to support the people, not just resisting. I'm so tired of the resist, because it's such a negative sentiment, like being like, oh, I want you to resist. It's like, okay, obviously I want everyone to stand up for what's right and stand up for themselves if some like oppressive person or oppressive policy is coming on them. Yeah, resist that. But the idea that we should be telling people to go out and just obstruct is, it's completely, to me, negative, like just negative minded, and it's just everything's gonna kind of fail. I mean, your only success is if you succeed in obstructing, which means nothing's getting done and the status quo is preserved. So it's like, it makes perfect sense why the corporate Dems want you to go out and resist, because that just perpetuates the status quo longer. I get it. But the 99%, all of us need to be just hardlining and saying, look, no, stop taking money from any corporate interest. When is this transition going to happen, DNC? If it's not, if we don't see it, we're not going to buy it. And by the time, I mean, we'll see what happens in 2018, but even by 2020, we'll see what happens. And if, you know, there are so many different scenarios going into 2020 in terms of who we could be voting for as president, that, you know, the sooner any I mean, I really honestly think that the only chances that the Democrats have in winning is if they run, if our girl Tulsi runs, or Nina Turner, or I don't even think that Bernie is likely to run at this point. I honestly think that he wants to be more of a support person, and by then maybe he will run. But I don't think that he is even he shouldn't even be thinking about it yet until after 2018. And if he wants to at that time, maybe he will. But I really see this as Tulsi Gabbard's election in 2020. And I think that she, especially with the strength that she has at being the only voice of reason on Syria, I think that she has a lot stronger of a chance now to win than even Bernie would. So I'm hoping for that. But in terms of the Unity Tour, again, it's, participate, go out, find it. I don't really know what to say other than I support all these town halls where people are going and attending and calling out the company, calling out the corporation, calling out the candidates, calling out the electeds that are being funded by these corporations, and naming the corporations, looking at the corporations in your state, and being like, who's funding whom. I feel like this glare is annoying people, so I'm gonna do this. We need to be disrupting constantly, because they know from the internet that the people are not happy and that we're taking action, and they're going to hope that we loosen up and lighten up, and we absolutely cannot. So participate, go out there and make noise at the town halls and be smart about just protesting, but don't, use this time to say, look, Democrats, we need major change. We need to see it, not just say it, and we need it now. Otherwise, there's absolutely no hope. I mean, it's really a difficult thing to consider in terms of how the Democrats could pull it around between now and 2018. Hopefully they do, I guess. I mean, I want people that support the working class to be elected. I can't even say, oh, I want Democrats to be elected anymore, because the Democrats don't support the working class in general. So I'm trying to move away from even using the terms Republican or Democrat. I want to be as nonpartisan as I can because, yes, basically everyone is corporate at this point. Those are the people we need to be calling out. And I just really feel like, as you know, the Georgia special election is a good example. As we're talking about the Democrat, the Republican, the Democrat, the Republican. And it's like, yes, to some extent we have to be talking about the parties because obviously majority, obviously there's different numbers that make a difference in terms of what leverage the parties have. Now, if we sit here and talk about all of our elections just caged as blue versus red, Republican versus Democrat, not only is that just perpetuating this like, oh, we're trying to run a race, we're not trying to have two candidates competing with policies and one's better. It's like a race. It totally, the whole concept of the duopoly really takes all of the attention away from the issues that are being discussed, and it just puts it on the race, and it just like dumbs it down, so it's like me against you. And to some extent, again, yeah, that's kind of why the idea of a two-party system works, is because there's a yin and a yang, and if you either want this approach or that approach, you take it, and they're both good. But at this point, since Citizens United, we don't have good candidates in general. So we can't just say, just because you're a Democrat means we need to celebrate a Democrat winning. We need to be looking at the candidates and supporting whichever candidate it is that is more committed to the working class, basically. Whichever candidate is more committed to not taking money from big corporations. And obviously, it's really hard to get word out to enough small dollar donors to get funding for candidates that are rejecting the corporate donations, but we have to start, and people need to start. And there's tons of new independent media that's ready to support all these different independent types that are bringing new faces into new races. Ooh, it's rhyming. It's like a Hillary tweet. But again, don't hedge your bets. Don't be partisan. Focus on who's supporting the working class and who's supporting candidates that are rejecting Citizens United, and really be hardlining about that. Has anyone been reading the Hillary Clinton book Shattered? Okay, so we're gonna segue just a little bit. So I started reading, oh my god. So I started reading Shattered, and I'm so annoyed. I feel like the whole internet is just like one long spoiler for me right now, because everybody's reading it, and I keep seeing like new revelations from it. I'm like, god damn it, I wanted to read that, and I wanted to break that tweet. It is shocking by how much they are just slamming everyone on the Clinton campaign. When I first just heard about it, I hadn't known of the authors' names. I found out why, but I didn't know who the authors were, so I was hoping that this book was something going to be like Clinton Cash, which I still haven't seen yet, but I know the background. I was hoping that this Shattered book was going to be like Clinton Cash, where it was written by like Republican types, where they were like beat me to it and just wanted to like absolutely eviscerate every element of the terrible failed Hillary Clinton campaign. Now, of course, to whatever extent the forces that be in publishing world, I don't know the backstory of the publishing of this book. The people that wrote it are complete Hillary sympathizers, and so within the first page, I would just jaw on the floor. Within like the first 2 pages in the introduction of the book, right away, there's this like laundry list. There's like a list of 5 things. I tweeted it. There's like a list of 5 things that they say Hillary Clinton campaigned facing trials and tribulations worse than anyone else, including a rogue FBI director. And on this list, the final one was a Kremlin-backed campaign against her. Such bullshit. But on there was a primary opponent that attacked her character. Like, legitimately, the premise of this book, within the first few pages, the premise of the Shattered book about Hillary Clinton's failed campaign, and I need to make sure that I'm saying the full name of the book every time, because the name of it just makes me die laughing every time. Shattered. I need to look it up. It's like the inside story behind Hillary Clinton's failed campaign. It's so fucking dramatic. I obviously love it, and I love the glass ceiling reference. Shattered. It's amazing to me. So within the first few pages, you realize that they're kissing Hillary's ass, that they're already throwing Bernie under the bus, they're entertaining the Russia bullshit. So it's like, we know that going into this, there's going to be nothing about the DNC rigging the primary, there's going to be none of that stuff. So I obviously am going to take it on myself to do some Medium posting about this, and a lot of people are putting stuff out there already, but I'm going to start some media. I'm tweeting about it, use the hashtag Shattered, but it's entertaining because these the campaign, they were so stupid. The people that ran the campaign were just dumb. This is what happens when you exist in a society that's just celebrated by just money and not actually people getting paid more to encourage that they did good work. The Obama campaigns did well and made a lot of money, and the people were paid well, but they did that in a kind of an arrogant way, but they knew they were going to win, and they did win. And it was pretty clear, both campaigns, that they had all of the elements that they would need to win. So them being a little cocky about it, it was kind of fine, because I always felt confident that both Obama's campaigns would win, and I think that that was kind of a general sense. So it was more excusable to be a little bit arrogant about that. Now, the Clinton campaigns, I thought that, I thought it was common knowledge that it's very difficult for one party to win 3 elections in a row. So that we had Democrat, that if Hillary's going to win, I didn't think that that was going to be a really easy thing. Any Democrat was going to win. So that the Hillary Clinton campaign in general was so comfortable that they would win, to me was just like showed how oblivious to American history they are, as much as they like think that they are American history, and to whatever extent they are. But it's like, okay, if Hillary Clinton actually wanted to sound smart, one of the first things she would have said when she walked out to announce her campaign was, look, Democrats need to win again, and it is a historically unprecedented event for a third, not historically unprecedented, it is very rare in history, it's very historically unlikely that a party will win 3 terms in a row, so we need to be smart with campaigning. Literally, if Hillary Clinton came out saying that at the beginning, everybody would be like, oh my god, she actually knows something about organizing, oh my god, she's leading with a really important premise. Like, that would have, honestly, that could have set up Hillary Clinton on such a good point. If she would have just, accepted her, failures, with the email and everything, I think that she really could have done a lot better if she had went out from the very beginning accepting that it was going to be hard to win, just based on the nature of having already had a Democrat in office for 8 years. So the arrogance of these people, and they're not the smart people. The Obama smart people, a lot of the smart Obama people went into advocacy for other issues, went onto the Bernie and didn't participate in Hillary's because they have morals. So Hillary Clinton didn't just inherit all of the intelligent people and all the intelligent data systems that the Obama people had, as much as they thought that they could just magically rely on that and just magically rely on demographic shifting in their favor also. It just the arrogance of these staff people that they're talking about in Shattered is just really galling, and they're such idiots, and it's really hard to even know, even the stuff that isn't flattering or unflattering, it's so in this twisted world that it's really hard to even definitively be oh, okay, I totally trust the author that they weren't bullshitting this at all. It sounds like they're just trying to spin a story. I mean, they're constantly saying, oh, Hillary is a wonk in the best and worst sense of the word. They can't criticize her without prefacing it with a now Hillary's staple is policy, so this should have been a breeze for her. They say all of these really gratuitously nice things about Hillary, if she were an actual legitimate politician, would be true, but since she's just a scheming, corrupt crony, they're not. She doesn't have the background to support these big grand statements that they make about her. It's really, really shocking how hard they come down on the ineptitudes in the Clinton campaign. And obviously they were bumbling shit left and right, so it was clear to anyone paying attention that the Hillary Clinton campaign was a disaster. Bernie, at one point, they say that Bernie said, I won't say I'm with her because it's phony. I mean, that's the worst tag ever. I felt like that was the constant reminder of how terrible the Hillary Clinton campaign was their I'm with her hashtag. It's you literally had you had 4, 6, 8 years to come up with a good slogan for your campaign, and you A, didn't. B, you picked I'm with her, the most self-centered I'm trying to keep it down, keep the vomit in the stomach. It was so bad. Constant reminder of how bad it was. And so you extend that into everything the campaign's doing. I highly recommend that you read Shattered. I'm going to be cliff noting it on my Twitter feed, so if you want to follow along, it's basically, I feel like an idiot because I'm with my Kindle and I got my new iPhone 7, so they're both flat phablet size. So I'm literally just shuffling them on the bus in the morning. I'm reading my Kindle, then I'm oh my god, that's fucking terrible. switch, tweet, bring it back, and it's like every 2 lines I'm just like facepalm again because it's just fucking ridiculous, the shit that they say, and that this stuff gets printed. It's like me, who just writes what I feel and writes what I think, and sometimes I'm wrong, sometimes I'm right, but at least I'm always just saying like what I think is accurate and true about my observations. Like, I don't know if I could ever like get a published book deal, right? And then here are these people who are writing absolute bullshit, and they're literally getting it published. It really shocks me. Obviously, you can write fiction and you can write whatever, but it like really just shocks me how you can open up these books. Mine's on my Kindle, so I can't like physically open it, but it just blows my mind how you can read these books and you can be like, this is supposed to be factual, but I know for a fact that this is completely not fact. And it's very classic. It's actually funny because on my Kindle I actually have The Hard Choices, Hillary Clinton's book. That sounds like a gay sex app. And because I downloaded it way back when it first, well, actually, I bought the book when it first came out, but then I downloaded my Kindle again later because I wanted to study it, and that's when I noticed that the Honduras section was removed, was when I got my Kindle. But anyway, so I have Hillary's Hard Choices on there, and then Shattered is on there, and I have them right next to each other, so it's fucking funny every time. But I would recommend that you read it. I hate that you have to buy it, though. I don't want you to give anyone money for it, which is terrible. So feel free to not read it if you don't want to, because I gave them money, and I feel dirty about that. The one good thing though was, so I got an iPhone 7 for this, and I dropped it and broke it within 2 days because I'm awesome, and so I had to get it replaced. And I've never been to the Apple store in Seattle before. I didn't even know where it was. Didn't even know there was one, but there is one. It's really this nice, nice, yeah, exactly. Hard Choices. Literally, when that book came out, I'm like, why did Hillary Clinton name her book? It literally sounds like, I'm gay, I love gay people, but it sounds like a gay sex app. Hard Choices. Like, click. Everything about it is bad judgment. Everything about it. Like, everything about it. But, so I went to the Apple store because I dropped my phone. It was shattered and it was whatever. And I wanted to start reading this book. And so the only store near the Apple store that there was a bookstore was the Amazon bookstore, you know, this like Amazon bookstore here in Seattle. And I was like, oh, for fuck's sake, of course it's got to be fucking Amazon bookstore, so I can't even just go to a normal bookstore and try and give a normal bookstore my money for this Shattered book. So this was Tuesday, right when the book came out, and so I get into the Amazon bookstore, and it's funny here in Seattle because it's like, I think that most people are pretty like woke, so they understand Hillary's problems even if they voted for her, but just kind of like support the like concept behind Hillary. But like you basically can kind of assume, at least up here in Seattle, that everybody voted for Hillary. And so, like, especially, like, the tech people, because big tech, right, they want Hillary, whatever. So I go into this Amazon bookstore, and this guy, like, rushes up with, like, 14 gadgets, and he's like, how can I help you? And I was just like, do you have Shattered, the book about Hillary Clinton's failed campaign? And, of course, I had this, like, huge smile on my face, and he's, like, disgusted by how excited I am to just say the name of it, Shattered, an inside scoop to Hillary Clinton's failed campaign. Like, I'll say it over and over, because it's fucking funny to me every time. And I, like, said it, and he was just so disgusted. And he, like, looks in his little thing, and he's like, we don't have that. And I was like, And so I was like totally straight faced about it, but he was like, we don't have that. And I was like, so once again, Amazon is good for nothing. And I totally did that Modern Family thing where it's like you just like deadpan it and you just leave it and you expect them to like assume it was a joke, but I didn't really like tell him I was joking. I was just like, once again, Amazon is good for nothing. And I just kind of like shifted away, and he was over it. So I thought it was hilarious, but maybe he didn't, but I don't really care. But I couldn't get the book there, so I had to take a really beautiful walk instead. And then I downloaded it later, and I got my iPhone fixed, and it's really pretty now. And the iPhone, I have really tiny hands, which has nothing to do with anything else. And I hate that like Trump keeps being talked about it because it's weird having tiny fingers, short fingers. But it's really hard to hold the iPhone 7. It's like I feel like I'm like legitimately like pull it out from, I'm like, hey guys, I've got to text someone. I like have to literally hold it with like it's just a disaster. But it's a nice phone, and it's gonna help me with my reporting and stuff. So that's good. Speaking of, let's see here. So a couple just announcements about progressive stuff. So our friend Sam Ronan is launching Our Voice. So he's doing a great job. He's one of my favorite new people to come out of the woodwork. So click over to Our Voice and check out Sam. He's doing a fundraiser on Indiegogo, and there's basically an app that they want to work on, and they've got a lot of really good plans in terms of figuring out how to start building just kind of like progressive resource networks to support progressives in races wherever they may come up. I think one of the important things that some of these kind of groups that are trying to like elect Democrats or whatever aren't thinking about is that it's not so much like they're kind of waiting for the candidate to be good, and that's important that the candidate is good, but right now I don't think that we should be promising anyone a certain candidate or anything. We should just be saying, if you support the working class, join networks of working class voters, as many that are doing their best to start right now, and by then we'll at least have networks developed, and we'll be able to address races as they come. But yeah, I wanted to give Sam Ronan a shout out. So check out Our Voice. They've got an Indiegogo campaign that's coming up, and there's going to be rolling out some other stuff, and I may or may not be doing some commentary on that show also, or on their channel also. So we'll see. Sam's awesome. And then also Jordan is doing a live stream. Jordan Cheriton is doing a live stream right now, I believe, from Flint. And he's doing really moving work on Flint and just all the water issues. It's crazy that he's basically the only one doing that, but he is, and he's on the ground, and he deserves everyone's support. So check out what Jordan's doing. And Real Progressives also is doing a ton of great stuff, which you guys are definitely aware of because you're here. I don't necessarily need to tell you that. But the talk that Steve just had earlier tonight regarding the Draft Bernie movement, I know that he brought up a lot of the things that I was kind of wanting to ask. So check that out too. And keep supporting independent media. So a story I'm going to write for whoever wants to publish it next is going to be about this this media vacuum that kind of took place in the Bernie blackout. I need to figure this out, but basically just to kind of talk you through it, and I introduced this in a video that I did for Truth Against the Machine recently, is that basically, so you have American media, right? We all, most of us were all adults through Obama's re-election, right? 2012, flashback to 2012. 2012, we're kind of watching, okay, we don't really know who all the big money, if they're behind Romney or if they're behind Obama, because there was a lot of big money behind Obama and there's a lot of big money behind Romney. So, and that was consistent with the media entities. So we had a lot of Fox News types supporting Romney, and we had a lot of MSNBC and CNN types supporting Obama. And so there was really a balance in the media coverage that we were getting, in terms of like there was a lot about both parties, and so it kind of was more obvious that there was bias, because it was kind of okay, because you knew that the bias was coming from CNN. Of course they're going to want Barack to win again, versus, oh, if it's Fox News, of course they're going to want Mitt Romney to win. It's kind of easier to accept bias if you expect it to be coming from a certain side. Now, in this election, obviously the entire media and the entire establishment itself was behind Hillary Clinton, and so and that started before the general election, when they started to elevate Trump. We know this happened behind the scenes based on the WikiLeaks emails. The DNC started to elevate Trump, gave him tons of airtime, blacked out Bernie from the airtime. Who knows what the directive was in terms of not letting Bernie get coverage, but Bernie barely got any coverage in media whatsoever, and that was part of the huge struggle he had to get visibility and to get name recognition, which are critical. And that was one of the things that Hillary Clinton's behind-the-scenes campaign did well, was starving Bernie from the attention that he deserved to be getting on media, because they knew that the more people that knew about anyone but Hillary would literally vote for anyone but Hillary. So it really hurt Bernie more than anyone else, just based on the fact that he was basically the only one running, and he was outside of the Democratic establishment in terms of being very anti-corporatist, whereas no real Democrat would have been able to kind of challenge that with any sincerity. So what had happened was, in 2016, there was this media vacuum that became, because everybody, all these human beings, were trying to read about Bernie because they hated Hillary and they hated Trump, and they wanted to read about Bernie, and they knew he was this, that, the other. They heard his name. They're looking for more resources. And so people like me, who were tweeting, or people who were writing back then about Bernie and who were taking it upon themselves to do independent coverage of him, we all of a sudden all started getting followers and getting audiences, and huge audiences. Real progressives grew massively. I mean, my Twitter feed, like, I was just some ho-hum random, and I still am ho-hum random, but on Twitter with like 500 followers. I literally think I had 500 to 1,000 followers before 2015 when Bernie ran, and then I literally got 15,000 followers in less than a year. I have like 20,000 followers in just over a year, and that's not just because my tweets are on point, but it's mostly because people are looking for that because they're not getting it from corporate media. And so there's this whole vacuum that exists. It was created during that time, and it kind of changed in nature as it was just the general election between Trump and Hillary, because it was very still hard no Trump and very still yes Hillary. So not it's not like there was the same kind of it was not the same dynamic at that point. It was different ways of bias, but we did see the imbalance. But since the election now, the media doesn't have to consolidate behind anyone anytime soon. So we're not really going to see how the media consolidates in terms of supporting what candidates in 2018, which we'll really start to notice. Now, there's elections going on all over the place at all times, and it's unlikely that corporate-owned local entities are going to be going out and finding the independent, progressive, anti-corporate candidates that we need to elect. And so basically we're kind of fucked in this catch-22 where all of the people that we want to get elected, the people who are anti-corporate, are going to be continuing to get denied media coverage, just like Bernie was denied media coverage, not for the same exact reason, obviously, but for a similar reason, in that obviously if I'm going to go out there and try and campaign against Comcast, then yeah, Comcast is any affiliate of Comcast isn't going to want to bring me on their show. They're not going to want to interview me. They're going to want to actually discredit me. And so we really have an upward battle as progressives to create a new media based on the absolute need and the vacuum that exists now. Obviously things are kind of disseminating since the election, and it'll be a while before we see if any of these news outlets like regain any sense of credibility, but there's no guarantee. And so the more that you're doing to go out there and find progressive journalists and support them and get on Patreon and like look at these cool subscription models. $1 a month is such a reasonable thing to be like, oh, I'm going to subscribe to Michael Tracy for $1 a month. I'm going to subscribe to Jordan for $1 a month. $1 a month is such an easy way to say, this is where I'm going to get my news for the next few months, and it's a progressive person. I'm cool with that. I really think that this is an amazing new model that will work in general, probably because it's going to be impossible, if not difficult, to change the corporate grip on politics. But in the meantime, this is going to be where it happens. I mean, I think I told you guys this. I'm pretty sure that my Twitter feed just alone gets more views current events wise than any other Twitter feed in all of Washington State. Like, obviously I don't have the viewers that like the Seattle Times has, but my Twitter feed like today got way more engagement than the Seattle Times, the biggest newspaper in the state of Washington. That's insane, but that's the way it is that everyone is so starved, everyone's giving up and so fatigued with mainstream media, and they should be, that they're looking for independent folks. And it doesn't even matter if it doesn't even matter necessarily how obviously the media was so terrible and is so terrible that even people like me or amateur news gatherers, even if we're like just on the right track and asking the right questions, it doesn't even ultimately matter if we break the story or like get to the bottom of anything. The important thing is that we are all networked and in communication with each other, and realizing that the working class needs to be working together as 99%, and that we are all up against corporate media, and that corporate media is going to very heavily influence the options that we are perceiving to have in every single election that we ever vote in until Citizens United is overturned. Woof, right? So, support independent media is that long-winded explanation. And the other thing that's kind of my segues are kind of good tonight. Julian Assange. So, reporters, obviously there's a complete double standard in the media, but the reporters and real journalists are basically the most obviously targeted people in the country, in the world, around the world, no matter what the government is, right? The people who, the whistleblowers, are the most important people that we as a progressive community are protecting and standing up for in terms of First Amendment rights. So now the U.S. government, this is recent today or really recently, has announced that they have a reason to arrest Julian Assange, right? Assange. So, hot ass mess, and this is gonna, we all need to be sticking up for Assange and basically addressing this issue as part of the independent media. God, I gotta write all this down. As part of the need for independent media is, look, okay, if the U.S. government thinks that they can just, Julian Assange isn't a U.S. citizen, first of all, so we kind of have to take a step back and remind ourselves of that. But the idea that the U.S. government is trying to bring charges against a foreign citizen for exposing things that happened, it's basically just sets this precedent that any reporter that's going after any government in the world can be tried by the U.S. government for some reason, right? It's complete ridiculous overreach. And this is exactly the type of thing we're going to see in the Trump administration. And obviously, as somebody posted, Washington Post even has a dump on their website that says, oh, how do you want to leak secrets about the government? You know, a lot of people, unfortunately, the journalism ethics, most people aren't really familiar with ethics in journalism in general, and social media came to be without people kind of learning the basics of ethics in journalism, including how sacred it is to be a whistleblower, to be a source, to be a person who is part of a very, very, very highly sensitive story that's going to be breaking. Edward Snowden, Julian Assange, Chelsea Manning, all these folks, these are extremely vulnerable people because of the magnitude of the crimes that they're exposing. So, you know, it's really, you know, and we saw this at Standing Rock. We see this all over the place where it's the journalists that are coming face first with the government at their special interests that are targeted. And if it becomes precedent or acceptable in any way that the U.S. government can prosecute a citizen from any country in the world for leaking secrets about the U.S. government, it's like, I mean, it's really, it's easier for me to tweet like scary, morbid things. I just like tweet it once, type it really fast, and like forget about it. It's like harder for me to say it because it's really, really fucking scary. But it's like, we obviously, the surveillance state is insane, and people like Julian Assange and these other whistleblowers are doing everything they can to try and just open source information about these completely oppressive governments, and they are getting chased and targeted, and it's that should scare us all, honestly, because basically we need to protect sources, we need to protect we need to protect the people that are speaking out for the greater good, and whistleblower laws are far too uncommon, and that's another thing that we could all be learning more about is whistleblower laws and learning how to support whistleblowers and learning how to be a whistleblower in ways that are safe. You know, people have different opportunities for risk. I mean, it's like getting arrested for for a political protest. People have different, you know, comfort levels or abilities, but whistleblowing, you know, if you see something, say something, right? I mean, that's kind of the general rule, but so much white-collar crime and corruption gets brushed under the rug because it always has, or like that's how it's always done. And it's like that's just going to keep, that slippery slope will keep going, you know, unfortunately, but all the more reason that more whistleblowers need to emerge and need to speak up for the rights of whistleblowers because, again, the precedent of arresting a reporter for producing facts, like, it's really kind of a scary idea. Glenn Greenwald tweeted, Assange is not American and has never stepped foot in the United States. This is all grounded in U.S. self-perfection as a world ruler. That's exactly correct. He's responding to a tweet that says, from Ben Wesner, imagine if China or Russia announced a criminal investigation of U.S. journalists for publishing their state secrets, right? That's messed up, right? Like, say, for example, I were to find some state secrets of another country and I were to publish them, like, could Russia just all of a sudden, like, impose charges on me, American citizen? Like, what is the U.S. trying to do? It's very Trump-ish. It's very Obama. I mean, you know, Obama basically, like, gave Trump all these opportunities to like go further, even though it already has gone so far in the dark cloud of the Obama administration that it's really just scary. And I am glad that there are so many people that are resisting, that are standing up against the unconstitutional and unethical and in many ways racist or in other ways prejudicial or predatory policies of the Trump administration, because they are going to be going as hard as they can. And Assange, maybe more than anyone else, needs our support, and it really makes a difference when we are all loud about stuff, especially, you know, like on the Unity tour and things like that. We don't need to, you know, be, oh, it's okay that you guys rigged the primary for Hillary, no big deal. No. Like, have a spine, be strong. The representatives will get voted out. They will. They will get voted out if they're not representing the will of their constituents. And the more that they're not listening, the more you know that you need to be mobilizing to work against it. Obviously, as we are dropping the mother of all bombs on poor countries that we have already devastated with criminal wars, like, it's just overwhelming to think about. Drink more. I feel like all of these are just gonna be like damage reports where it's just like, okay guys, it's Thursday again, how much do we have to drink for all the shit that's just happened this week? I swear to freaking God. Oh, what is that? Oh, anyone have any topics they want to talk about? I got to all, oh God, you know what I want to talk about? First of all, real quick, like gay gasp. Personal note, Susan Sarandon follows me on Twitter now. She followed me in the past few days, I don't know, but Susan Sarandon, if you're watching, I obviously love you and I'm obsessed with you, and she only follows 400 people, and I'm so touched and turned on that Susan Sarandon follows me on Twitter. So thanks, Susan. I registered for the People Summit in Chicago. You have to sign up. There's a link circulating, so sign up if you can make it to Chicago in the first weekend in, it's the weekend of June 9th, 10th, and 11th, I believe. So sign up for that, apply if you are interested in going. I think that it's going to be a really cool, I haven't been before, and I've missed them, and I don't want to miss this one at all, so I'm hoping I'm able to join, to be there. I'm planning on it, I just need to make sure everything works out, but check that out for sure. I'm looking at the trends right now to see if there's anything good. Nope, it's all terrible. Everything's terrible. Let's see here. I did all my shout-outs. Oh my God, this picture of Sarah Palin in the White House in front of the Hillary Clinton thing, it's just like, it's so funny thinking back to how much I hated Sarah Palin, and now I'm just like, well, it's better to have idiots in the White House than corrupt, lying warmongers. I mean, not like the Trump administration aren't corrupt, lying warmongers too, but I'm still just, I don't know about you, but I'm still just really glad Hillary didn't get elected. The idea of all of the Hillary Clinton administration having committed so many crimes and getting all of that stuff swept under the rug from the email, everything, if they would have been rewarded with the presidency, it would have just been a new level of government impunity, and I can't even imagine that. So I still am very relieved that Hillary Clinton is not president, but I never thought that seeing Sarah Palin in the White House in front of a picture of Hillary Clinton would make me laugh out loud, but it did. So, cool. Oh, speaking of right-wing crazy people, so it has been I'm going to tie this all into my article on the vacuum of media. So, right-wing media, it's been a great week for right-wing media in terms of it imploding. Software update later. I just bought this phone. How does it already need an update? I swear to God. So obviously Bill O'Reilly has, oh, cheers everybody. Bill O'Reilly getting out of there at Fox News. Cheers the shit out of that, everybody. So I'm going to drink to that one. I'm going to refill this because we've got a lot of right-wing media imploding that I want to drink to. Huge drama with this Alex Jones custody battle, right? He obviously was a performance artist. Nobody didn't know that, but I think that it's really good that all of this crap is coming out. because it just helps us drain the swamp. Obviously, Trump isn't draining the swamp, and that term's kind of nullified based on how he used it and didn't really do it, but that is obviously still what we all want to do, and the media swamp needs to be drained, and the more the right wing and the left wing are both exposed for being corrupt, the better. So we drank to Bill O'Reilly, so drink to Alex Jones' career demise. It's beautiful, the sunset's going down in Seattle. I'm like watching the sunset. And then this lawsuit battle between Tommy and Lorette. I don't even know if I'm saying her name right because I try not to put her in my brain ever. Tommy Loren, whatever her name is, and Glenn Beck. I mean, I'm just eating popcorn from afar. I don't even really know what's going on other than they're suing the shit out of each other for all bullshit reasons. And so it's really just all bad news for right-wing media, which is great. And I think it's bad news for Rachel Maddow in general. People kind of see that she's a complete con now too, so that's really good for us. Basically, the more that we can kind of disassemble the corporate media structure, the better, and it was a really good week for right-wing media falling apart, which I always am in support of. You know, it's just like, it's not right-wing, left-wing, it's just basically corruption, and so much of the media industry is just ruled by the sponsors paying the commercials, and that's just all it is. So we're just going to call it for what it is, and that's that. So there are a lot of pipelines, and we should be watching pipelines. So if you're in Florida, the Sable pipeline is something that needs your attention. And if you're not in Florida, I mean, basically, I think that, you know, we'll see at what point it reverses. But basically, we're going to get more flints happening across the country unless Donald Trump actually does something, or unless Congress does something to address our infrastructure. So we're gonna have more of these problems, and it's like, it's so messed up, guys. It's so messed up that they're like, oh, pipelines can get built, no problem. We got all the money for pipelines. We got all the resources. We got the army for pipelines. We will mess a bitch up if they're in the way between us and our pipeline. Like, they will do anything to build a pipeline. Can you imagine if the U.S. government were that gung-ho about building like new roads or like new train systems? Like, it's so sad to think about if they would spend the money on education that they spent on war, if they spent the money on bridges and public transportation systems that they spent on pipelines. It's so fucking sad. Like, sorry to complain or swear, that's what I was apologizing for, but it's like gone as any pretense that the US government like actually is like you know, trying to use our tax money in a way that is functional. Obviously, the whole the Fed, it's all a hot-ass mess. But, oh, there goes the computer, so I lost a little bit of light. I'm trying to seduce you. Oh, that's kind of bad lighting. Do you want to... I'm trying to get my monitor to light back up. Oh, maybe just like it dark. Maybe the sun went down. Does anyone remember what I was talking about? Let's see here. I can start a new topic. I've only got a few more minutes. Let me see here. What is my last topic? It's not my last topic, but all of the unicorn frappuccinos make me crazy. But my little sister drew me a unicorn a little while ago. This is my little sister who I tweeted voted for Jill Stein in her school mock election. My little sister Ming, and when I was home last time, she's learning how to draw, and she's like, Zach, can I draw you a horse? And I was like, well, she's 10, turns 10. She's like, Zach, can I draw you a horse? And I'm like, well, it can't be a horse. Probably should be a unicorn. And then she just like went wild. Didn't go wild, but like ran off to her room. She just got all these new pencils and this whole art kit for Christmas. And I was like, you can't draw me a horse, you have to draw me a unicorn. And she came back and she made it rainbow with the Z's on there. And I was like, oh my God, she knows the way to my heart. But those Starbucks drinks are, I'm embarrassed that I even said the name of that. I'm very pro unicorn, no. Let's be clear on that. Let's see here. Okay, so I think that might be everything for today. So unless someone has anything, type it real quick. But other than that, so May Day protests are coming up, so support labor and immigrants coming into the May Day marches on May 1st. Look in your area for those. And I don't know that there are any other super pressing things that are coming to mind. So I'm going to sign off. I've got a little bit more champagne and I will chug this. But my name is Zach Haller. Thanks everybody for joining me. This has been Trending Topics here at Real Progressives, and I will be with you again next Thursday. Stay tuned at Real Progressives for more awesome independent programming. Hit up Real Progressives with the payments if you enjoy the content and if you're learning from it. Support Real Progressives, and I also write for a few other places, so look me up on Twitter. That's where I post a lot of my stuff. My articles go on a Medium account also, but I've got stuff kind of cropping up in different places now, and I appreciate all your support and feedback. So thanks everybody, good to see you all. I hope everyone has a great weekend, and hopefully it's still 420 where you are. Hopefully it's not 421 yet, so smoke one for me. Bye guys.